Welcome to AstroLyrical, the podcast where music meets astrology, where I, Liana, scope out the hidden astrology of up-and-coming musical artists and discover how the stars show up in their music, songs, and lyrics.
Annie is a community-based tarot reader and documentary editor who has worked on documentaries such as Fantastic Fungi and the Moving Art series. Annie started tarot at 12 years old, and it turned into a passion and prolific hobby. Annie's big three are Leo Sun, Cancer Moon, and Virgo Rising. Hello everyone. Oh my God, I feel like it has been ages and ages since we've talked with everyone here at AstroLyrical. It has been, I think for everyone, a little bit of a weird time. And it has definitely been a weird time for us here on the podcast with everything happening in LA. And it's just, one of those things where we're all trying to get our bearings. But I'm very excited to get back, to be here, and to be here with our guest, Annie. Hi, Annie.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be on AstroLyrical. Longtime fan, first-time guest.
Well, we love Annie. She is connected through our friend groups and also is an incredible tarot reader. And that is why I really wanted her to join us on today's episode, because this episode's going to be a little bit different than our traditional music astrology. I mean, everything is always connected. Music, astrology, tarot, everything I feel like is connected. But the reason why I felt like today was really important to have a couple different modalities on, like astrology and tarot, is because, like I said, it's been a weird time. Has it been a weird time for you?
It's been an incredibly rough start to the year.
Yeah.
We are recording in the year 2025, February. So we are dealing with a administration who is not great. If you are a queer person of color, woman,
a lot of things are kind of just being dismantled right now.
Yeah. And we're in Los Angeles. So we just came out of a firestorm. There were multiple fires. And it was an incredibly intense period of time. Whether or not you were personally affected, most likely if you live in Los Angeles, someone who was affected by the fires.
Yeah. Or just even the fear of not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah.
The unknowingness, I think, is really scary. And I think we're all feeling that a bit, like what you said about with the new administration, with the fires, with the uncertainty of a lot of things. We're all feeling, I think, a little bit on edge, and just it's a hard, like you said, a rough start to the year.
Yeah.
So this episode I really wanted to come together. And again, you are such an amazing tarot reader. And I want to hear about your background of how you got into tarot. Why do you connect with tarot? How did that all start?
Yeah. So I actually, my mom reminded me yesterday that my first interaction with tarot was in gestation. My grandma had a friend who was a professional tarot card reader, Claudia Suyen. She's an amazing teacher and has written a couple books herself. And so she gave my mom a reading when she was pregnant with me. And every summer I'd go visit my grandma in Hawaii, and I'd get a tarot card reading from Claudia. So when I turned 12, my mom, as a birthday present, gave me my very first deck. Claudia gave me my first guidebook, which was called Tarot in 10 Minutes, which I still swear by to this day.
Oh, Tarot in 10 Minutes?
Yeah.
That's great.
And she was because I was really struggling with these very big esoteric tomes of just and she's being like, well, first of all, that's a book on Thoth tarot, and you don't need to start with that. And she's like, go with this, learn the basics, figure out what resonates with you. And so I started reading in middle school and high school, very much always having the guidebook in hand while doing readings.
Oh, you brought it to high school with you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
I
sweet.
would just read tarot cards at lunch in high school. I was that person. And then I was on swim team, so that became a fun thing I could do while we were just having downtime. And then in college, I continued to do it and started doing it more professionally, or started doing a monetary exchange for tarot card readings around college time. So yeah.
And what I love about your tarot readings, and I feel like because I've seen a few different tarot readers and stuff like that, but what I love about your readings, or what I feel like is so unique with you, is that I feel like with you are so wonderful at being able to do a reading in a collective kind of way, meaning that, I mean, yes, I'm sure you do it personally for people, but also I feel like what really made me think of all this was I had, an astrology Zoom night after the fires, and you agreed to join us. And I loved how, you're a person that I feel like is always like down to help a collective cause. And also just a community-based cause. And I love that about you. And I loved that you jumped on, you were able to pick up the energy of our Zoom meeting, of the people that were there, and then just do a reading for the collective of the group, but also just collectively what we're all feeling. And it really did give me a sense of like, I don't know, like it made me feel like, okay, there is a purpose, there is a reason, there is a path forward for why we're experiencing all this, which I understand in an astrological viewpoint. But I loved hearing your tarot viewpoint. And do you feel like for you, do you personally like doing readings more one-on-one, or is it something where you like to do collective?
I like both. I really like both. And thank you so much for your kind words. I really there's such a wonderful experience of when you connect with a client and you kind of you find the cards allow them to see something in a different way, or allows them to reflect as far as but in terms of the big broader stuff, that's really nice when you can provide that sense of being okay, these are all just symbols, these are all archetypes, and how do they apply to your the current situation and you personally. So I really I it's like choosing a kid. You can't really you can't
you love both your kids, exactly.
Do you like a one-on-one date night, or do you sort of this collective party where you get to mingle with a bunch of people, I guess would be the difference.
I love that. Well, and what I love about that is because I have read your chart before. We have done a reading, and what's really cool is I really understand, I mean, you have a lot of energy in the 11th house. I remember your sun was there, you're that Leo sun, Cancer moon, and a Virgo rising. And you have a lot of energy in the 11th house, which is all about the collective. And it's all about communities and your groups of friends and coming together for a really humanitarian cause. And I feel like I see that in you all the time, and the group of friends that, we're all associated with. It's I feel this really 11th house humanitarian, collective, what can we do that really can help the collective? How can we work all together? And I just love that you use your tarot for, again, personal readings, but also in a bigger group sense.
Yeah. And what I really love about tarot, I always viewed tarot as this thing you did socially.
Yeah.
Growing up, it was always a thing where I had this skill set. Any family function is oh, Annie can read your tarot cards. At Christmas, I always read tarot cards.
And it didn't feel like a burden to you.
No,
you were excited to do it.
Yeah. And it was this thing where it's if you're a tarot card reader, Halloween, October is always your busiest season. Yeah. And because that's sort of a gateway for a lot of people getting their tarot cards read for the first time, I always it always fills my cup up a lot. I read for your friend Jules at a work party, and I just remember afterwards I'm just this is great. I don't think I'm going to book myself for the rest of the year. I got everything I need out of this.
I love that. So it really fills you up. And I think that's, you and I have that in common, where it fills us up. And it's also a way to kind of bring the idea of tarot or astrology to people who maybe don't know about it yet.
Yeah. And especially as someone being that sort of gateway to be there's, this is such a great tool. It is a mirror to it can be a mirror. It can be a sort of reevaluation. There's a reason why so many therapists use it as a tool, and Jungian, it's Jungian tarot is so big in Jungian psychology. And I really, really do view it as a tool for self-betterment or more self-awareness.
Yeah.
Or even just a nice, I know a lot of people oh, it's tied to your spiritual practice. Spiritual practice can be incredibly fun and incredibly joyous. And everyone has that bad tarot experience where I feel the cards read me.
Yeah.
And one, sometimes you need that, but two, it's always coming from a place of it's always your own interpretation to it.
Yes.
And it's you have your own you most of the time have your own best interest at heart. So you can take from that what you need.
I love that. And it's so cool. I love how tarot and astrology really merge in so many ways.
Yeah.
I feel like what you're talking about, betterment, understanding yourself. These are different archetypes to understand yourself. And with the tarot, there's all these different cards that represent different things, different elements. Same with astrology. You know, all the different signs have their place and have certain qualities that mean things. And with the elements and stuff, those mean things too. And so it is a way to understand yourself, understand the world, have a lens to look at things, so that I think right now we just all feel a little lost.
Yeah.
And with tarot and with astrology, not to sound like culty, but, you know, I think with those practices, at least for me, it's given me a sense of like, you know what, this is a really tricky time, but I really, truly believe, and maybe this is like my optimistic, you know, my Jupiter and Cancer in the 11th house. I really feel like the world is going to be okay because of what I understand astrologically. And I'm sure for you, did you do a reading in the beginning of the year?
Like I did. I do kind of like, I do the 12-month reading. So it's basically like 12 months with a circle. And then I do a themed card in the center crossed by another one. So,
Wow.
which, again, there are 15, there's 14 cards in the spread. So I can't remember each one.
Yeah.
But like my center of it is the Emperor, which is sort of like, okay.
Yeah.
And the Emperor is like the fourth card in the major arcana.
Mm-hmm.
In pop culture, my favorite thing is when Breaking Bad was coming out,
Mm-hmm.
the billboards and a lot of the key art for that took a lot of the Emperor iconography.
I
So
love that.
a lot of it is like the Emperor, again, you have control of an empire. It's traditional ideas. It's a father figure type who's very much like being like, I just need to keep this together, and it is impressive and it is stable. I love the stability of this.
Oh my God.
But again, in that Tarot 10 Minutes book, which I, again,
Recommend for anyone.
it's like you can't tell if the sun is rising or setting.
In the Emperor card.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
one of, and this is, I'm basing this off of the traditional Coleman Smith Rider-Waite deck. This is the King of Pentacles, not the Emperor card.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that sort of idea of like things are stable, but is this the end of an era or is it the beginning of an era? And it's an old, like, you know, the Emperor's traditionally an elder gentleman.
Yes.
He's very, he can be very stern looking, kind of like a King Solomon. Like I always thought King Solomon type looking dude.
Okay.
But is he losing his power?
Okay, so I'm getting a lot of chills right now because what you're saying resonates so much with the astrology.
Yeah.
First of all, just on a personal note, I did a reading for a woman who also does tarot. So whenever I do a reading for her, she does tarot for me. Like
Yeah,
we kind of
I love it. I
yeah,
love it.
exactly. Which again, I want to talk about some astrology connected to that too. But what was crazy was in a lot of the cards I was pulling, and this was for me personally, not collectively, but in my own life, I kept getting the Emperor card, which was like really taking my power back. But what's interesting is when she was talking about the Emperor, which is so funny you mentioned that as the first card you talked about, because I just got so like connected to this card. But anyways, when she was talking about it, I was like, this is the Aries card. This is an Aries energy. You're talking about taking your power, new beginnings, strength. And that is all the energy that's coming into this new year. So like the fact that you pulled that in your deck for the new year and the fact that that is an energy that we are going into, I just, again, it connects so much.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like, there's a lot of positives about the Emperor card. Like, he is all about stability. He's all about sort of like, I do not want this to crumble. I don't want anyone to challenge anything. I absolutely do not want any, like, big sweeping changes. I really, really, really just want to keep this, like, train on the tracks. And, like, what it was challenged or what it was crossed by was the moon, which is all about seeing things in a different light.
Wow.
And all about the sort of like, you know, it's a lot of shadows. It's a lot of things that you don't necessarily notice during the day that are beautiful and terrifying at the same time, just because like, you're like, I don't, this creepy spider, why I hate you. Like, you're terrifying, but also you're very essential to keeping everything in order.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I saw the moon card a few times too in this tarot reading I did. And what she was talking about, Nancy is her name, what she was talking about was that the moon is kind of like a transitional card. And what was interesting to me is, at least on the traditional Arcana deck that she had, it was like there was a sun and it was like kind of coming out of the water, but it was like a face. But then there was like, you know, a dog and all the stuff. And then there was like a scorpion coming out of the water. And I was like, oh my God, this is so connected to that Scorpio energy, like transformation and purging and letting go and rebirth and everything.
Yeah. And it's like when the moon when the moon card comes up, it's like, I think about the word like sublime, where it's both terrifying and enchanting at like all at once.
So are Scorpios.
Yeah. Right. No, exactly. But it's this thing that like, there's this beauty because of the danger of it. And it's this idea of being like, I can be scared of it, or I can kind of be enamored of its defense mechanisms.
That's the thing, is Scorpio energy. And I know you guys, our team has a lot of Scorpio energy. So they were giving me a look when I said that. Scorpios are a wonderful sign. I love Scorpios. I have so many Scorpionic people in my life. And what I love about that is that terrifying, beautiful energy. They are so not afraid to be out there and like, they're vulnerable, but at the same time, when they get in that inner power, it's like, you don't want to mess with that.
Right. Yeah.
That is a strength. And it is so gorgeous to see that rebirth that they are constantly needing to go through. So when I saw that moon card, instantly, I was like, oh, that is so Scorpionic. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know?
And again, like in that card, you have like these, like the creatures, like they're like a lot of times depicted as wolves or dogs howling at the moon, where it's just like, this is basic instinct. This is what you are meant to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
Man, that just gives me, I feel like it's all so, again, I sound so woo-woo, but it's like all so connected. And these are just outlets for people and for us to understand that the universe has a plan. There is a plan. I know that terrible things happen and it feels like, why are these things happening? But I really, and again, I want to get into the astrology, but I do want to talk to you more about tarot, because I feel like to see that connection is so powerful. And the fact that that is your way of working with the world and your way of helping people in the world, I think is so beautiful. And I just love it. Yeah. And so it's so fun to talk about those connections between the two. So what were the other cards that you pulled for the beginning of this year?
I got the Empress for March, which I'm looking forward to. I would love an abundant March. I would love to just
Empress is like Venusian, like kind of
incredibly like it's luxuriating, it's looking good, but it's also has a lot to do with like some people like view it with like pregnancy and sort of like things gestating, a lot of like really strong feminine energy.
Like the Taurus card?
A little
bit. I mean, like the Taurus sign, not the card.
It's very, like the luxuriation in this card is very Taurus-y. Like I'm not
always connected
I'm not an expert in astrology. I know that astrology and tarot can work together, but every time I come to astrology, I'm like, math is terrifying.
Yeah, that's one part that you just have to work with.
But with like the Empress, I always view it as this sort of like, okay, the harvest has come in and you get to enjoy it. You get to enjoy like, you get to enjoy your labor, or you get to like, you're so close to like, when going back to like this idea of like because there are I remember there are a couple depictions of it where it's like this pregnant woman in a field with all of these watermelon, where it's just like you're so close to getting to that next step. But also just that sense of like command through it, and like I don't know, I love just the sort of
the luxuriating. I love and
like the personal enjoyment, which after like, you know, there's a bunch of really, really heavy stuff going on in the world. And I'm not saying like put your head in the sand and ignore it, but I'm very much looking forward to those moments where you can take a break and you can sort of be like, yes, this is going on, but I need my rest as well. And then like I got like some like stereotypically negative cards coming up in June, which is like the Nine of Swords, which is not the happiest card. It's a lot of mental anguish. It's a lot of grief. It's like when I have a client pull it, I'm just like, there's a lot of anxiety going around of things you cannot control. But the positive of that is after that, I got the Strength card. So I'm going to get through it. It's just the month of June is going to be intense.
And was that for you or for the collective?
That was for me.
Okay. So you personally might go through something tough in June. Well, it's really interesting. Astrologically speaking, we have been through hell and back. It's all connected. All the planets are in these specific signs at this time for reasons to evolve, to develop as people. But you're not crazy out there if you feel like January and February were a shit show, because they were. The start, especially for us LA people, the start of the year, we start the year, we're like, great. And for a lot of people, traditionally, January 1st is like a new beginning. And, let's start on those resolutions we've got going on, right? And then it's like that first week, we came upon those winds, the Santa Ana winds, that basically just started this catastrophe. And it was really interesting because the fires began on January 7th. That's like on that, on that day, that's when they were really erupting. And Mars has been in retrograde since December. And it has caused all kinds of situations. But essentially, when Mars goes retrograde, it's slowing down. And Mars is this planet of energy and motivation and drive and anger and release and sexuality and all these other things. But it's really that drive to move forward on things. So if you've been feeling like you've been a little bit more tired, a little unmotivated, a little bit like, I just can't, how do I do this right now? I don't have the energy, which I know I've felt. How have you felt?
So I have felt so like just sticky.
Yes.
Where it's like I will go to do
moving.
Like, yeah, I will go, like, I have so much intention to be like, all right, let me like just even pleasurable things like reading a book or just, and it's just like, no, I kind of just have to stay in bed, or I just like these sort of like what feels like a wasted afternoon, or just like things just, and just kind of like, I don't know, I'm giving myself grace and being like, maybe this is your rest period. Maybe this is your brain being like,
exactly it.
We really don't want to do that.
Yes, and that's exactly it. It's a time where you look at the things that like, I should do this, I should do that. And it's like, why though? Like what exactly is motivating you? What are your motivations in general? Yeah. And this is a time to rest. This is a time, like traditionally wintertime, I know we've talked about in another episode, wintertime is a time that we should all be resting, but we don't and we can't because of the way that our society works. But we should be.
Yeah. I have a question for you in terms of like what I have like found motivation to do is actually hang out with the collective, which seems like the card of the year is the Hermit. And so basically like if you add up like 2025, like the two, like 2 + 2 + 5 comes out to the number 9. Yeah. So which is the Hermit card, which makes sense for the Mars retrograde of it all. Yes. Yeah. But it's very interesting because when people think of hermits, they think of solitude, where the thing that I have been kind of motivated and like what I like figure out, I think I figured out what I want deep down is like, no, I want to hang out with people now.
You want to, well, don't you? So Mars was in Leo. Okay. The start, and isn't that your 11th house?
It is, yes. Okay. And it's also my sun sign. So, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, your deep sense of self is with the collective. It is with your friend community. So when you're not feeling safe, that's where you go. You go to the collective people in your life, the communities, your friendships, and you can feel safe there, even if you feel a little unmotivated, you're tired, you're just like not wanting to do things. That is still a safe space for you. Yeah. So for you, it makes sense that like, that's your happy place. That's your place where it's like, I'm not feeling totally like myself, but with my friends, I can feel like myself. It brings a part of myself out. So it makes sense that that's all happening. But yeah, the Hermit card resonates a lot because that retrograde just was a slog. And it was a slog in December. And then January, it's kind of like, okay, it's going to be a slog. But then what happened was that it was in Leo. It was retrograding in Leo, and then it retrograded back into Cancer. And then it retrograded back into Cancer on January 6th. January 7th, the fires happened. And it was so interesting because Cancer is all about the home, all about homes in general, and how you feel safe, how you feel nurtured, how you feel taken care of. It's, the moon. There's a moon card, isn't there?
Yes, there is a moon card.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you feel like that resonates with the Cancer energy?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Especially where it's just the sort of like, I don't know. I feel like Cancers get a really bad rap of being crybabies, which we are, or are we just in touch with
a lot of feelings?
We're in touch with our emotions.
Yes, in touch with the moon.
And
it makes sense.
And like, I don't know, when going back to like the moon and the spectacular beauty of the unknown and the like, this sort of like bigger power than all of us. And I don't understand how it works. Like, what does the
the moon is amazing. Yeah, I don't know.
It feels like incredibly like
Cancerian. Yeah.
Where it just so much is like I'm going to feel all the feelings all at once,
and it's so powerful. And I love your Cancer moon because I hope it's okay. I keep bringing up your astrology, but it's so resonant because again, it's like that Leo sun is so out there, and sometimes Leos can be a little bit self-indulgent, meaning like it's about the self. Yeah. But it's like, but they also can be like the real cheerleader for other people. But then that moon, that Cancer moon just makes it so that like you want to take care of people. like you love people, you're a nurturer type of person.
Like, no, when the fires happened, I had a friend living in Pasadena. And so on Monday night, I messaged her and was like, hey, I don't know if you're like in the evacuation zone, but if you just want to come and stay, like we have a we have a little ADU at my house.
Yeah.
And so she stayed with us for the week. And like the entire week, I just like cook stress. Like
and that's such a Cancerian thing too. To, like,
I just needed to cook dinner every single night and just being like, I think I'm just gonna roast a chicken. Like,
oh, and you were like, let me take care of you, taking care of your collective too.
And
I
like,
would think make you feel better.
And so I don't know if she realizes that like the help she gave me to be like, I'm in control of something. Please eat the mashed potatoes. Like.
Yeah, you were helping her, but by helping her, she was helping you.
And again, it's always like, it's so easy to become isolated where it's very like, especially like in LA where as we age, all of our friends just move to different neighborhoods or like staying collected, like, and just to have like another person to go through that with. Yeah. And like, my partner, I have a partner and he was there too. Yeah. But like just to us three kind of like talking about like, all right, let's talk about our feelings. This is like what happens. And I've never been a bigger fan of freeways in my entire life as that week of like the firestorm. Like,
they were kind of blocking some of that too.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. And it was so crazy that Mars went retrograde into Cancer. The fire started. And then we had a full moon in Cancer conjunct Mars on January 13th. And that was kind of like, oh my God, that was like a week later. But the fires were still happening. Yeah. And that was such a time of revelation of, the moon highlighting the things that are on your mind emotionally, what's feeling unsafe. Yeah. And we were all feeling unsafe. We were all in our homes and in our like security systems, you know?
I am so proud of the city of Los Angeles because in that week you really see like all these people pulling together to like to come together for mutual aid. I don't know if your listeners know, but like there's this thing called the Spreadsheet Brigade, which is just like these people tracking rent hikes throughout LA and who is doing it illegally. And that was all a volunteer effort. There's another volunteer of just people affected by the slowdown in the entertainment industry who are like, we're really good at spreadsheets. We will create master spreadsheets for you to navigate FEMA and all of these
aid
networks.
That must be a Virgo or something like that. If you love spreadsheets that much, you must be Virgonian.
I truly believe that every production manager has like some major Virgo placement.
And you're a Virgo rising.
I am a Virgo rising.
Do you like spreadsheets?
I do. I love me some spreadsheets. Like,
there we go. Yeah. Perfect. Well, and that's the thing is that's what this kind of came out of the fires was us all coming together. Yeah. And what I love too is probably a lot of the listeners know or maybe don't know, but Pluto. So this year there's like 5 major planets that are moving signs. And last year Pluto moved into Aquarius, which is huge.
And it's going to stay there for like years and years.
Stay there. I mean, it's going to stay in Aquarius until 2043.
Okay.
So this is a long road. But it's really great because like I was saying, 11th house energy, Aquarian energy, similar. It's about the collective. It's about how are we coming together as a collective to make these big changes. And some of them are external. Some of them are like these fires happening. And then how are we coming together to, like, again, with the Cancer energy, nurture each other, take care of each other, have each other's back in this big collective way. And there will be more asked of us moving forward because of everything happening, because of the administration stuff, because of how expensive everything is, like us starting to build homes with communities. It's like, oh my God, the world is changing and we have to just work with those changes. And it's for the betterment of us, I feel like, though.
Yeah. And like, I think that corresponds a lot with like the year card of the Hermit. And when we think about the Hermit, like it's someone who's living in solitude, is very much like this loner figure. If you're familiar with like Led Zeppelin, he is on a couple album covers. But the thing is, like, the Hermit's all about working outside the system and so much about like finding this inner truth and kind of being like, okay, I don't necessarily want to be a part of like the church or like a king or like be under the emperor. I'd much rather isolate myself and get into the deeper truth, which like, as again, like you're saying, who's someone who loves the collective and who has like a lot, like, you know,
Yeah.
some Leo Cancer placements. I'm like, but my buddies, I can't.
Yeah.
But
it's the balance of all of it. Yeah.
But so much of it is just like finding what works, like what your inner truth is, and like really connecting with like what you know is the broader sort of like workings of the universe.
Yeah.
And then sort of like you can still go to town and just like, you know, when we think of like hermits coming to town, like they're disheveled, they're wild, they're a little crazy.
I love that.
But they also speak the truth. Like
Yeah.
in old kung fu movies, there's always a moment where like a young like kung fu person who's like needs to get revenge and they get taught by a hermit. And
that makes so much sense.
Yeah, and it's something like, this is forbidden knowledge, like, and occasionally like the knowledge will be stolen and they'll be sad about it. Like, yeah. But again, it's that person who's just like really like, I'm gonna go outside influence and just really, really figure out like how to master something. And like I think that's happening a lot right now.
Well, and what you were saying, I want to get to the tarot and stuff, but just one last thing about the astrology. It's like what you're saying is like we're tuning into our inner truths. And right now, a lot of that inner truth is, I feel like, connecting to our spiritual truths. We can't control externally what's happening. And there's going to be more that pop up. Uranus is moving into Gemini this year, and that's going to be a lot more with communication and media. And that's something that I love what my astrologer said. And not to make this a whole thing about Trump, but he did say, he was like, you can't indulge in everything Trump says. There's going to be a million things that he puts out there in the world because that is who this person is. But you have to self-preserve, hermit, big vibes, you know, and be like, okay, like I'm not going to take all that in. And instead of absorbing everything out from the world, tune in. You know, Neptune is moving into Aries. We just had this beautiful North Node in Pisces, conjunct Venus, conjunct Neptune on February 1st. And so much of that was about tuning in to the spiritual side, tuning in to helping each other out spiritually through your gift, like you're doing. You know?
And I think like a lot of it too is like going to elders or people who've been in community for like who've been doing it for a long time.
Yes, yeah.
Like I remember listening to this podcast where they were talking about like the hermit as sort of like, we never think of the crone as the hermit, where it's just like, and it's just like, oh, maybe we should do that more.
Yeah.
Where it's just like you
learn from our elders.
Like, yeah, but you have this like incredibly wizened person, like usually presented as like very femme, and just being like, oh, I don't like you because you're close to death and you're scary and you remind me of my own mortality, as opposed to just be like, you have a bunch of wisdom and you're not like messing with like the beauty standards of society anymore, because you know that's like that does not serve you and it is kind of bullshit a little
you're
bit.
Connected to the higher truth, and that's what we need to listen to.
And maybe it's just like seeking out that, knowing that it's like, oh, this person's like, I don't want to advocate like go find yourself a weirdo, but like
go find yourself a crone.
But again, like really instead, like, because I don't want to like the message from the hermit is be like be a loner and isolate yourself. It's more just like go like, where is the wisdom? Like go after that. And
that's how you find peace through the chaos.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, could you pull a few cards for us?
I'm going to actually have you pull some cards.
Yeah, I'll do it, sure. Yeah. So how many cards should I pull?
So we can start with one, we can talk about a card, or we can do a 3-card like past, present, future.
Is that kind of traditionally what you do?
Yeah. So when I normally do readings, I normally start with a 3-card, and then depending, I'll go into a Celtic cross, or depending if like, I'll usually talk with somebody like, what are we, because there's like a mirror reading, which is really great for relationships. There's a winding path where it's like, I don't know what to do. Like,
well, I'm curious about like collectively what's in store. So if I pull the cards, will it be for me or will it be for collective?
We can do collective. Let's pull 3 cards. And do we want to do it through like a certain node transit, or do we want to do a certain like, because I'm really interested in this Uranus going like Gemini, just because like my Chiron's in Gemini and I love myself a chaos agent. I do not love it for the collective.
Yes, it's going to be a little intense, but there's other things that are balancing out that energy, you know, that Gemini energy. So we could definitely do it for that if that's an interest of you. You know, we could think of, I think for me, what I want to ask is, what is in store collectively for our city and just for our society, and maybe if there's ways that we can learn how to work with that better, if the cards can tell me that. Okay, so I'll pull 3?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do And I turn them up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, hey, this guy keeps coming up. So we clearly want to talk about like how to create sustainable. Like...
I love that. Also, if I can be, if I'm like, ooh, maybe that's also for me too, I hope.
Like, no, but like the King of Pentacles, like Pentacles, everyone really likes this card because like when we think Pentacles, we think like wealth, money. I always view it as like, what is sustainable? Like what it's like, it's very material.
Yeah.
In that sense of like, it comes from the earth. We we commodify it. We move it throughout like our circle of people, our society. Mm-hmm. But in the end, like in the perfect world, it always stays within the community and it comes back to us.
I love
and like
that. Yeah.
The King of Pentacles, like he's my favorite of just the like, it's not stealth wealth. It's very much like old, like that sort of old money, but also incredibly just like I am frugal in the sense that I buy things that last. I am really into just making sure, and that emperor mentality of like, I want to keep this going. I want to keep the ground fertile. I want to make sure the harvest is coming every year, and I want to make sure it pays off.
And like sustainable. So not getting rid of everything in society. There are certain things that we have that are good, but it's like what can sustain us. Hi guys, I just wanted to take a pause outside of the episode to give everyone a little bit of a break from what we're talking about. I know that all this information is a lot to absorb, but I hope you're enjoying it. And if you would like to learn more about astrology or any other information with it, you can go to my website, liliroseastrology.com. Enjoy the episode.
Let's pull another card.
Okay, let's pull another one.
Yeah.
Let's see. How about this one? This one seems to be calling my name.
Okay. Oh, we're dealing with some money stuff. So this is not great.
Okay. What does that represent?
It is the Five of Pentacles, which is like fives are transition cards. You're literally in the middle of going for like of your suit, and it has a lot of people will view this as like the poverty card. I view it as the sort of like, it is darkest before the dawn. You are at your lowest point. So things are just as a collective maybe feeling really, really low. Yeah. But it's also like they're incredibly close to sanctuary. They're incredibly close to a church that will let them in. There's been like discussions in a couple books about like, are they going to go into the church and why are they not going to go into that? Like, and are they choosing not to, or are they just or is this they're really, really close to it?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So it brings up the idea of church and religion too?
Or it brings in, or sanctuary.
Or sanctuary.
Or structure. Okay. Yeah. And so it's this idea of like, you are like, you can view it as being like, I'm so close to actually getting to this safe space, or you can view it as like, I am so tired right now. And like, I always view it as they're going to make it, whether or not they choose sanctuary right away. Or
but maybe the exhaustion comes first, and which is, again, I think what we're all
But like,
feeling.
no, it's a very, very like dire, like not, everyone's going to be feeling very just like they are handicapped in a certain way. There's definitely going to be a sense of lack, like,
right.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're transitioning out of. But it seems like a transition card. Like, it's not that we're staying in lack. It's that right now we feel that, but we're moving forward.
Yeah. And it's like, and despite all of it, they are still moving forward.
Okay.
So,
so in a way, it's positive. I mean, even though it's negative, but it's moving towards something positive.
There's no negative cards in the deck. I don't love that card. Anytime it comes up where I'm just like, oh man, I got to really like go into like, what is my lowest point and how do I work through this? What is my, again, a lot of relationship with money stuff, a lot of being like, you're going from like the man who controls the the guy who controls the purse strings to being like, I have absolutely nothing.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's really, okay. So three cards? 3 cards. Okay.
Yeah.
This one also calls.
Okay. And
wow, a lot of money. Yeah. It's all money, it seems like.
Yeah, and we're gonna go through a period of like probably a lot of like this, again, we're going for, which is like the Emperor. It's like, it's a lot of savings. It's a lot of being really closed. So what we do have, we're gonna really, really hold on to it and really value security. The problem is with that, like, we won't necessarily be moving forward. He's literally like, okay, I have it. Like, I have everything. I'm not gonna lose it. It's under lock and key, but at what cost? Like, you're not, all he can do there is just hang out and protect his money.
Wow. Okay. Which a lot of people probably are doing. I mean, some people are protecting the old styles and old ways of doing things.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of like, I think that's where people are going into, like, which is kind of counter like to this outpouring of support like I have been seeing like the last month. But I'm curious about just like, I don't know, I don't think people are going to be super self-interested. I think as a collective, we're going to feel this way. Okay. now I want to just ask, like, any advice, like, what advice to get us through this sort of like model of like very feast and famine mindset that we might be headed into.
I love that.
And that's okay. Oh, be creative. Like,
oh, I love that.
Like, no, it really is like about like, so we have the Ace of Wands. Which again, I love like when an ace card pops up because that's just like an energy. Like, you imagine you're Mario and you just like get a 1-up and you just get this like suddenly burst of energy. Wands are great. They're associated with creativity. They're associated a lot with work. It's the Hermit has a staff that is a wand, so it corresponds to the year. But the thing about wands, like they're mutable. They can be multiple things. They can be fire. They can be like a weapon. They can be a house. So it's all about like getting creative, like what you do have. And the thing is, like with the wands, like they come from a natural environment. They are tied to the earth in a way that like is much more raw than like say the pinnacles are. It takes a lot longer to produce gold than it does to produce to produce wood. You still have to nurture it like the same way like you like would tend to fire to make sure it doesn't go out, but like it's much like once you get it going, like it's just the matter of like, okay, I just got to keep like fueling you. And
well, it's interesting. You were talking about the mutable energy, and actually, the nodes just changed signs from cardinal energy to mutable energy. Now, our south node, our transiting south node, is in Virgo, and the north node's in Pisces, and that is also so much about like staying receptive to all these changes, and also learning how to pivot and kind of learning how to move, and working with all that new energy. So it's interesting. I mean, again, it's just interesting the connections between the two.
And again, about this card, it's not so much like about like, oh my God, you have to be selfish and you can never share with anyone. But think about that hermit energy of just being like, okay, what can I really give and what do I have to figure out for myself too? And like, I never actually thought of this card as being tied into the hermit, but again, he's a solitary figure, does not want to like be like, really is just like, I cannot be burdened with anything else. Like I have to really figure out what like I'm going to either use this for. And maybe that's like the positive negative of this card is every time like I'm a very safe person, so I get this card a lot where it's just like, oh, look at me not taking a chance again, versus like, oh, I really 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 want to take this time to figure out what I can do with what I have.
And that's very earth energy.
Yes,
it seems like the pentacles are earth energy. It's slow, it's methodical, it's planning, it's strategizing. It's not just going for something.
I always think pentacles have a lot of Virgo energy just because when I think about like, well, like so do the swords do, because like when I think about like who's dressed to impress, like the pentacles and the swords are very sharply dressed and like and very functionally like
practical.
Yes,
I love
practical
that.
with a bit of like, if I do have any flair, it's to prove a point.
Yes. Like, oh, that is so good. Okay, so what? So this was for this
is our advice to take over of just like rely on your creativity, rely on that sort of like thinking that you have, rely that you can make something out of nothing. Like rely that you have like you can repurpose stuff and have them have multiple uses. Okay. And like I don't know, like I think the like scary thing right now with like the state of the world, and this is like a little bit geopolitical, where I've been raised to be like the collective is important. The collective is how we survive because we are all networked together and we lift each other up. Like your success is my success. Yeah. And if one thing doesn't function, then the rest all falls apart. And it seems like right now it's like this incredibly very selfish of like we have to shrink, and it has to be all about us. Yeah. And I think like as that is happening with like the external forces, it's more just like yourself being like, what is my truth? What can I use it for? And like, how can I like, as things are shrinking, what do I still have that are mine and how can I use that?
It's a huge balance, I think, between collective energy and individual energy. And I know we're starting to run out of time. So there's one last thing I want to say about that. But before I say that, was there any other cards that you felt like were important to pull for the collective reading that we're doing?
Okay. Let's pull one more card. Like, is there a specific question you want to ask, or?
I mean, again, my focus right now is kind of the collective energy for the listeners.
Okay.
So I would say, how about this? Let's pull one more card and ask the question of like, what is the takeaway from
Okay.
this episode?
Yeah.
But what is the takeaway from your point of view to guide listeners? And then I'll do my last takeaway astrologically, but let's do the tarot one.
Okay. I'm going to pull, this one caught my eye.
Okay.
Oh, be there for each other. Like, honestly,
I love that.
like, yeah. And again, like,
what card is this?
It is the Two of Cups, which again, cups, like, associated with a lot of water signs, associated with our emotions. If you ever come up a lot with like relationship readings, romance, but also like as it's in terms of the collective, like you have people you can partner with, you have people you can go to and who actually deep down like really want to be with you. Like there is going to be a lot of cooperation with each other.
Yeah.
And it's just finding that person. It's finding the person who is right for you, where it's like, I feel like the last election cycle we were in this position. It was like, we all have to do something together. And it was very much like we need a large quantity, where I think maybe going forward, it's a lot of groups really honing their messaging and really kind of being like, this is what I'm really, really good at, and partnering with those people who can make that a success. And again, like I always love this card because like a lot of books will like point out that like relationships are about compromise, and one person is like definitely making that like that initiative to like reach out.
Yeah.
And it's kind of being like, there are a lot of people who are your equal, and a lot of people who are in the same position as you, a lot of people going through those same anxieties. And honestly, like a lot of people are really needing someone to like reach out to them. Like I was talking to a friend the other day about how like we were, he was feeling a little powerless. And I'm just like, if the thing you do is reach out to a friend who is queer, who is reaching out through like a friend who is currently being attacked, and you see them as a person, and just realize that like, no, you're my partner, you're my buddy, we are in this together. That I think is an incredibly powerful thing right now.
I love that.
Yeah.
So the togetherness.
Yeah.
And the compromise in certain ways too.
Yeah. And again, the difference between a hermit and a madman is just someone who recognizes their wisdom.
I love that. Okay. So that's kind of the message for everyone, is coming together, working together, compromising, checking in on those who may feel powerless right now.
Yeah.
And then also, it sounds like in a lot of the cards, like connecting with yourself, connecting with your own inner power. So again, that balance between collective energy and individual energy, it sounds like.
Yeah. And
something.
And again, I'm not advocating for you to just go out and find a weirdo, do your vetting, figure out who you vibe with.
I love that. People start writing in. So I took your advice about finding a weirdo, and that ended weird.
Or just like, again, there is someone going through this who has wisdom to share, and you have wisdom to share.
Yeah, I love that. And that is so the energy I feel right now too with the astrology. I mean, the North Node moving into Pisces, North Node is all about the direction we're going right now. And it's going to be in Pisces till July 2026.
Which really corresponds with this card, because like
which one is that again?
the Two of Cups, just because like in the Coleman Smith Rider-Waite deck, the Page of Cups, who's all about messaging, he actually has a fish in his cup popping out.
I love that. So it really does connect. And I feel like that Piscean energy is so much about healing, but it's also so sensitive and working with each other. And again, sharing your gifts. Like that day I did the reading for the woman who does tarot. It was kind of this amazing experience where it's like I helped her through some really hard stuff through the astrology, and she helped me through some hard stuff through the tarot, so it was like this thing where we were helping each other through our own gifts.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I love that you do that. I love that, we're all like, whatever gift you have, it doesn't have to be astrology, it doesn't have to be tarot, but whatever you can help. Like Pisces is very service oriented, as is Virgo. But Pisces is more about like in an energetic kind of spiritual sense, whereas Virgo is more practical and technical. But it's like whatever you can do to be of service right now to people, whether that's checking in on a friend, whether that's like through spiritual service of helping someone, doing tarot, creating a painting, working with whoever, the kids.
Yeah.
Like, it's like we are all here to help each other through this, and through that and through our own individual practice, connecting with that beyond us, we will get through this time and we will be okay. And that's what, even though it's really hard, we have to remember. So that's my last thought on that.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that you joined us. This was a really important episode at this time. We are finishing up our season because, as I've said, the Mars retrograde has been kicking all of our butts. And I'm not saying that as a defeat. I'm saying that as this was a really good way to end the season. We all love our community and we want to keep creating new episodes with new artists and everything like that. But it was really important, I felt like, and we all felt like our team felt like to end the season in this way so that we all know that like there is a connection there. We are, wanting to connect with you guys. And I'm really excited to create more episodes coming up in the spring once Mars goes direct. Trying to create a podcast during a Mars retrograde is literally hell.
I bought a house during a Mars
I was
retrograde,
gonna say,
and
that's not fun
never
either.
again.
Never again. So I would say we are basically, by the time this episode comes out, the Mars retrograde might be over. It's probably going to be direct. So, but it still might be wonky for a couple more weeks. So let's, make sure we're, staying strong. Oh, yeah. We're staying strong. We are, doing our individual work, our collective work, and trying to rest whenever we can as Mars gets its speed back up. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram, as well as Spotify, as well as YouTube. And we're really excited, again, for the Mars to be direct, for some of this astrology to work itself out, and then to create new episodes coming up in the spring with new artists and also do more community events as well. So thank you again, Annie, for joining us. It was a pleasure talking with you in your deck.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a delight.
Oh,
AstroLyrical podcast.
AstroLyrical podcast. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. This podcast has been a Lily Rose production, created by Liana Bassior, produced by Juliana Hartman, Danielle Mariscalchi, and Alana Chevrant. Audio by John Nyson. Stay tuned for next week's episode, where we dive into another musician's chart and explore their music.